Welcome to 21st Century Dating Decoded. We're making modern love simple. Get ready to decode your love life. Brought to you by Speed Mingle.
Think about the last time you wanted to watch a movie on a Friday night.
Right.
Right? You just want to relax.
Oh, I know this feeling too well. The doom scroll.
Exactly, the doom scroll. You open up a streaming app and you are immediately just hit with this endless grid of options. You're scrolling past like action movies, romantic comedies, obscure documentaries about, I don't know, bugs.
Right.
And you read a 2-sentence synopsis. You watch a 3-second auto-playing trailer that's way too loud. And then you swipe down. And you swipe down again and again.
And suddenly it's been an hour.
Yeah. 45 minutes, an hour later, your takeout food is cold, your eyes are tired, and you literally haven't watched a single thing. You're just exhausted by the illusion of infinite choice, right?
Yeah.
So you end up just turning the TV off entirely.
Yeah, it's the paradox of choice in its absolute purest form. I mean, sociologically speaking, when you are presented with too many options, your brain essentially it shorts out.
It really does.
The cognitive load that's required to evaluate every single variable, every single movie in that grid, it simply becomes too heavy. You don't feel liberated by the abundance of choice, you actually feel paralyzed by it.
Paralysis. That is exactly the word. Now, take that exact feeling, that precise, soul-draining digital exhaustion, and I want you to apply it to your romantic life. Because, honestly, that is the reality for the modern single professional today.
Oh, absolutely.
You log off work, you sit on the exact same couch, the blue light of your phone illuminates your face, and you enter the trenches of the modern dating economy.
The trenches is a good word for it.
Right. It's the endless swiping. It's the heavily filtered profiles that tell you, like, absolutely nothing about the actual human being on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, you're essentially looking at a digital catalog of people, right? You're trying to deduce a complex, multidimensional human soul from, I don't know, a picture of a guy holding a fish?
Yes. The fish picture. Or, a girl holding a margarita at brunch.
Right. And sociologically, we are really seeing the breaking point of this exact model right now. The pendulum is swinging so aggressively.
People are just done with it.
They are. People are realizing that an algorithm that's based entirely on surface-level, two-dimensional data points, it just cannot manufacture a three-dimensional spark.
No, it can't.
The friction of the apps, the ghosting, the superficiality, the gamification of human connection has created this massive demand to just get back out into the physical world. People want in real life interaction.
Right. IRL is back.
But the irony is the friction of entering a physical room full of strangers can be just as daunting, if not more so, than the apps themselves.
Exactly. Getting back out there sounds great in theory until you actually try to do it on a Tuesday night. Which is why we are unpacking the local singles economy today. We're looking specifically at Tampa, Florida.
Great market to study for this.
It really is. We are examining this massive stack of sources, basically a mountain of Eventbrite pages and local listings for singles events taking place through the summer and fall of 2026. And the market down there is frankly chaotic.
Chaotic is an understatement.
Right. You've got coffee shop mixers, you've got arcade nights, strict religious filtering events, and literally everything in between. So we are going to deconstruct how organizers are trying to hack human connection.
Yes.
We'll look at the traditional speed dating model, which, by the way, I like to call the DMV of romance.
That is so accurate.
It really feels like that. And then we'll examine the highly niche micro events that are desperately trying to fix that broken system. And finally, we're going to break down a revolutionary concept called Speed Mingle.
Which is fascinating.
We're going to explore how this specific model might actually be the vastly superior blueprint for anyone looking to invest a Friday night into finding genuine connection without losing their sanity in the process.
Well, to really grasp how this market is evolving, we have to start at the baseline, right? We need to look at the legacy system that dominated the pre-app era and, surprisingly, is still heavily utilized today.
Right. The classic speed dating format.
Exactly. Traditional speed dating. If you look at companies currently operating in the Tampa area, companies like Date Faster, LUV Talk, and Predating, they are all utilizing a very specific, highly mechanized architecture for human interaction.
Mechanized is the perfect word. It is an assembly line.
Completely.
Let's walk through the actual mechanics of these events for you guys.
Yeah.
You buy a ticket, usually, $20 to $30, and you show up to a standard local venue. Maybe it's a coffee shop like the Blind Tiger Coffee Roasters or Clips Cafe.
Or it's a bustling bar.
Yeah, a loud bar like the Green Iguana Bar and Grill or City Dog Cantina. And the structure of the evening is rigid. Date Faster runs rounds of 5 to 6 minutes. LUV Talk advertises fast rounds of 5 to 7 minutes.
5 to 7 minutes to decide your future, basically.
Right. And then pre-dating boasts that you will meet anywhere from 12 to 30 potential matches in a single evening.
So I want you to put yourself in that physical environment for a second. You are in a loud, dimly lit bar. The acoustic environment alone is incredibly challenging. You're straining to hear.
Oh, the yelling. You always leave with a sore throat.
Exactly. Then you are seated across from a complete stranger, and a literal bell rings. Or a whistle blows.
Like gym class.
Like gym class. And you have exactly 3 to 7 minutes to evaluate and be evaluated by this person. And then the bell rings and you do it again and again up to 30 times.
Which is why I compare it to the Department of Motor Vehicles.
The DMV of romance.
Yes. You walk in, you take a little numbered ticket, you sit in a stiff chair, and when they finally call you up to the counter, you have 3 minutes to rapidly present your paperwork and justify your existence before the person behind the glass stamps your form and yells, "Next."
Yeah, there's no warmth to it.
None. It feels entirely administrative. It is a high-speed job interview disguised as a romantic mixer.
Let's break down the psychology of why that feels so exhausting, because it's deeply tied to how our brains process novelty and stress.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you are forced to meet 30 people in rapid succession, your brain hits its cognitive processing limit incredibly fast.
I mean, 30 people is a lot of faces to memorize.
It's way too many. You are trying to take in their facial expressions, their micro expressions, their tone of voice, their body language, and simultaneously, you're monitoring your own presentation.
Oh, totally. Like, am I smiling too much? Am I making weird eye contact?
Actually, am I sitting up straight? It is a massive expenditure of neurological energy. And when the human brain becomes cognitively overwhelmed in a social setting like that, it seeks safety.
So it defaults to the easiest possible route.
Precisely. You fall back on the safest, most generic, deeply ingrained social scripts that you have.
What do you do for a living?
Yep.
And where are you from?
Those exact 2 questions. You end up asking those 2 questions 30 times in a row.
It's basically an interrogation at that point.
Right, because the interaction never moves past the superficial layer, because neither party has the cognitive bandwidth left to risk being vulnerable or spontaneous or funny. You are not building a connection. You are merely conducting a vocal exchange of demographic data points.
Wow. A vocal exchange of data points. That is so bleak, but it's true. And what's wild to me looking at these sources is how the system actually prolongs the anxiety of this whole process.
How do you mean?
Well, you go to an in-person event to escape the apps.
Right.
Right. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But look at how Date Faster handles the aftermath. You do the mini dates, but nobody tells you anything in the room. The structure dictates that you go home, and mutual matches are unlocked an hour after the event is over on their proprietary web app.
Right, so you're still tied to the screen.
Yes. It creates this deferred dopamine loop, very similar to a slot machine, or, ironically, the exact dating app you were trying to escape.
That's a great point. You put in the effort, you pull the lever by talking to 30 people, but the payout is delayed.
So you're literally just sitting in your car in the parking lot of the Green Iguana, refreshing your phone over and over to see if you got picked. It completely undercuts the premise of being in the moment.
It does. It pulls you right back into digital validation.
And if it's not an app, it's analog, which is almost worse. Look at LUV Talo Cachet.
Yeah.
They use physical match cards, where you literally mark who you'd like to see again while you are sitting right there at the table with them.
You're holding a scorecard on a date.
You are holding a scorecard. It forces you to stay in this constant state of critical evaluation rather than a state of genuine presence. Like, I don't know about you, but I can't just enjoy a conversation if I'm actively thinking about whether this person gets a check mark or a giant X on my clipboard.
Yeah, the clipboard changes the entire dynamic. It's evaluative, not connective. And because organizers recognize that this baseline model is grueling and, like you said, administrative, they often try to inject artificial excitement into the process.
To cover up the awkwardness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They attempt to gamify the friction.
The gimmicks. Yes, we have to talk about the gimmicks. Because sitting at a table with a clipboard isn't fun. We get things like the Tampa St. Pete Summer Lock and Key Singles Party.
Ah, the classic lock and key.
Right. This is run by Predating, and they proudly call it the original trademarked event, in all caps. The mechanics of this are just wild to me.
Lay it out for us.
Okay, so single women walk in, and they are handed a physical padlock. Single men walk in, and they are handed a key. And the entire premise of the evening is to mix and mingle and try to physically unlock each other to win prize tickets.
It's a fascinating sociological workaround, honestly. It turns the search for romantic compatibility into a literal scavenger hunt.
It does.
The stated goal of the event is to win prize tickets, with the organizer's caveat that the real prize is the people you meet. But I want you to consider the dynamic this actually creates in a room.
Right, let me push back on the organizers here, because to me, this seems like it would create incredibly weird incentives.
How so?
Well, if I'm a guy walking around a bar with a key, my primary immediate goal isn't necessarily to find a woman I have deep emotional compatibility with. My goal is to find the physical lock that matches my key so I can go to the DJ booth and win a raffle ticket for, like, a free appetizer.
You're prioritizing the game over the connection.
Exactly. Doesn't this completely override the ability to gauge genuine chemistry?
That is the fundamental flaw of gamifying connection to this degree. It forces interaction, sure, but under a highly artificial transactional premise.
Transactional, yeah.
You might spend 10 minutes talking to someone simply because you were trying to fiddle with a lock and see if the key turns, completely ignoring the fact that your conversational chemistry is totally flat. It uses a prop to mandate physical proximity, but proximity is not intimacy. It's a distraction technique.
Wow, that's spot on. And if the gimmicks don't work, there's always the monetization of the anxiety itself.
Which is a huge industry.
This was the detail in the event landscape that really stopped me in my tracks.
Which one?
LUV Talk hosts an event called Cocktails and Connections at the Green Iguana. And they offer tiered ticketing.
Oh, the VIP tier.
Yes. If you buy a standard ticket, whatever, you mingle. But if you buy a VIP ticket, you get a welcome drink, priority seating, and wait for it, an exclusive 10-minute one-on-one session with a certified dating coach right there at the event.
The existence of that VIP tier speaks volumes about the emotional state of the modern consumer.
Doesn't it?
It highlights how deeply unequipped and overwhelmed people feel by modern dating. The fact that there is a viable, profitable market for an on-site 10-minute coaching session, a rapid-fire pep talk in the middle of a loud bar, shows that attendees view the event as an adversary to be conquered.
Right, like a boss battle.
Exactly. They view it as a test they might fail, rather than a social gathering to simply be enjoyed.
It's like having a boxing coach in your corner between rounds.
Yeah.
You do 3 grueling 5-minute dates, you retreat to your VIP corner, get a sip of an $8 vodka crush, and the coach tells you to get your guard up and ask better questions before the whistle blows again.
That is a perfect analogy.
It just reinforces that the DMV of romance feels like an assembly line, and consumers are burning out on it, which naturally means the market is going to try to correct itself.
Right? Absolutely. When a generalized mass market approach begins to fail or just causes too much fatigue, the industry fractures into highly specific niches.
So what does that look like?
Well, if the 30-person rapid-fire gauntlet is too overwhelming, organizers try to manufacture smaller, highly curated, or activity-based contexts. They are trying to engineer what feels like authenticity.
Okay, let's start with the activity-based approach because we see a lot of this in the Tampa data. Companies like Jigsaw Dating are heavily utilizing external stimuli to mask the awkwardness.
So trying to give you something else to look at.
Right, they aren't just putting 2 people at a table with a bell. For example, Jigsaw hosts an arcade night for ages 25 to 45. This is at Dave & Buster's over in Brandon.
Good venue for a distraction.
Very distracting. You arrive, and the first 30 minutes is a bingo icebreaker using a custom Jigsaw bingo card. And then they hand you a $10 power card and basically encourage you to go challenge people to arcade games.
From a psychological standpoint, this is a strategy of triangulation.
Triangulation, what does that mean in this context?
When 2 strangers are forced to look directly at each other across a very small table, the emotional intensity is extremely high. Every silence feels incredibly heavy. Every lapse in conversation feels like a personal failure.
Right, because all the focus is just on each other.
Exactly. But by introducing bingo or an arcade game like basketball or Mario Kart, you triangulate the focus.
Ah, okay. So it's not just me staring at you. It's me and you looking at a basketball hoop or a skee-ball machine.
Exactly. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry for communication. You don't have to formulate a compelling, witty opening line. You just have to react to the game. It uses shared attention to relieve the pressure of direct attention.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And they do the same thing with trivia, too. Jigsaw has a happy hour for ages 40 to 55 at Gio's Lounge, where you are literally assigned to a keen number upon arrival.
Forced teamwork.
Right, and the main event is 4 10-minute rounds of trivia. But here is where I really struggle with this model, even with the triangulation theory.
Okay, what's the hang-up?
If I am looking for a life partner, someone to navigate a mortgage with, someone to build a future with, does knowing that they are really good at Pac-Man or that they know who won the 1994 World Series, does that actually give me any meaningful data about them?
It gives you data on their pop culture knowledge.
Right. But isn't this just an expensive Band-Aid? We're treating the symptom, which is the awkwardness of small talk, but we aren't actually solving the core problem of finding deep compatibility.
It's a very fair critique. Activity-based events are excellent for initial ice-breaking. They get you talking. But they can very easily become a crutch.
A crutch to hide behind.
Exactly. If you spend the entire 2 hours debating the answer to a trivia question about 90s sitcoms, you might leave feeling like you had a really fun night, but you haven't actually learned anything about that person's core values or their communication style in a crisis or their emotional intelligence.
You just learned they watched a lot of Friends.
Right. Which explains why other segments of the singles market have completely abandoned the loud, distracting activities and swung in the exact opposite direction. The extreme micro-event.
Oh, this is a fascinating development.
Yeah.
Organizers are just stripping away the volume, the noise, the arcade games to focus on hyper-intimacy.
Yes, they're shrinking the room.
Let's look at a company called AD Ventures. They are running things like a Matcha Plus meetup at Cafe of the Day and a single awareness dinner down on Water Street.
Very trendy locations, but very small scale.
Yeah, tiny. These are not 30-person mixers. The cap for these events is strictly 4 to 6 people. That's it. And the economics of it are really telling, too. You pay registration fee, usually around $12 to $26, but that fee doesn't buy you a meal, doesn't even buy you a drink.
So what are you paying for?
You are essentially paying a cover charge just to secure your seat at the open table reservation they made on your behalf.
You are paying for curation, and more importantly, you're paying for commitment.
Commitment.
Yes. In a world where flaking is incredibly common, especially on apps, where it's so easy to just unmatch or not show up, that upfront fee acts as a behavioral tether.
Because you have skin in the game.
Exactly. It ensures that the 5 other people at that table are actually going to show up and be present.
But the most striking thing about these AD Ventures dinners, and I found this so interesting in the sources, is the explicit framing of the event.
The copy on their website.
Yes, right on the event page. In bold letters, it says, "These outings are intended to help people make friends. These are not dating gatherings."
That is a massive pivot.
Right. They're actively targeting singles. The event is literally called the Single Awareness Dinner, but they are entirely stripping away the expectation of romance.
This speaks to a massive underlying issue in the modern singles economy, the profound erosion of third spaces.
Third spaces. I've heard that term, but break it down for us.
Sure. A third space is a social surrounding that is separate from the 2 usual social environments of home, which is the first space, and the workplace, which is the second space.
Okay, so what's a third space?
Think of community centers, bowling leagues, local diners, regular church attendance, public parks where people actually interact.
Places you just exist and bump into people.
Exactly. But as those physical spaces have vanished, or as our interactions have moved almost entirely online, making platonic friends as an adult has become incredibly difficult.
It's almost impossible, honestly. Where do you go?
Right. We talk about the loneliness epidemic constantly, but we almost always frame it around romantic loneliness. The reality is a lot of single people just want someone to get a coffee with on a Tuesday morning, or someone to try a new sushi restaurant with, without the heavy pressure of wondering, are we going to kiss at the end of this?
This is a date. Yeah, that pressure ruins a lot of good interactions.
By capping the event at 6 people and explicitly declaring it a friendship-only zone, they completely eliminate the sensory overload of the traditional mixer, and they wipe out the romantic anxiety of a speed date. You can actually have a sustained, unstructured 2-hour conversation. It lowers the cortisol levels in the room.
And you can actually see it working in the feedback. The testimonials for these micro events are glowing.
They have a very loyal following.
They do. In the sources, a woman named Claudia noted how natural and unforced the vibe was, and that the group actually stayed in touch after the dinner. They've built a whole community around this. They even have a Patreon for regulars and a philanthropic arm that donates proceeds to local families. It's a very pure positive energy.
It is. However, the caveat remains.
There's always a caveat.
Always. If your primary immediate goal is to actually find a romantic partner, spending your Friday night and your social battery at a strictly platonic dinner for 6 might feel like a misallocation of your limited time and resources.
Right. If you know exactly what you want, you don't want to play bingo, you
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to just make friends at a coffee shop.
You want to get to the point.
Which brings us to the final niche strategy we found in the data. Hyperfiltering.
This one is intense.
It's basically taking the digital filters of an app,
Mhm.
where you filter by height, age, zip code, political affiliation, and applying that exact strictness to a physical room.
They are essentially trying to guarantee that before you even open your mouth, the person sitting across from you is fundamentally aligned with your most uncompromisable life values.
The prime example of this in Tampa is the IYKK Christian speed dating event.
IYKK standing for.
If you know, you know. They host this at Dave & Buster's as well, actually, targeting the 20s to 30s demographic. Now, to be clear, we are not taking a stance on the religious aspects of this. We are just looking at the mechanics of how they organize the room.
Just analyzing the structure.
Exactly. Because the copy on their ticket page is incredibly intense. It functions literally like a bouncer at the door of your dating life.
It is the ultimate boundary-setting mechanism.
It breaks it down into explicit lists. It says, for you if you love Jesus, value health, want to have children.
Very clear.
And then in just as bold print, it says, not for you if you skip church regularly, looking to hook up, don't want kids.
Wow. What they're doing here is outsourcing the most awkward, high-stakes conversations of early dating to the Eventbrite page.
Right. Usually asking someone on a first date if they want to have children or how strictly they adhere to a specific religious doctrine, that's considered way too heavy for over-appetizers.
It breaks the social contract of keeping things light on a first date, but by moving those filters to the ticketing page, you completely bypass the risk of investing a month or 6 months into someone, only to find out you have fundamentally incompatible life trajectories.
It's brutal efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit down for your 5-minute chat at this event, you don't have to tiptoe around theology or family planning because the bouncer already checked their ID at the door, so to speak. You can just focus on whether you actually enjoy their personality, knowing the baseline values are already a match.
And this concept of intense, intentional filtering, it extends beyond just religious doctrine. It's starting to encompass emotional readiness, too.
Oh, right, the healing events.
Yes. The singles market is finally beginning to recognize that singlehood isn't just a status to be blindly escaped. Sometimes it's a transitional state that requires processing.
That's where something like the I Am Enough Singles Conference comes into play. Organized by Donna Drake, this is a 3-hour daytime event on a Saturday in Tampa. It offers purpose, healing, and community, specifically for single, widowed, and divorced individuals.
It reframes the entire narrative of what a singles event can be.
It does.
Traditional speed dating treats singlehood as a problem, right? Like an ailment that needs to be cured as rapidly as possible by putting you in a room with 30 people and blowing a whistle.
A frantic search for the cure.
Exactly. But a conference like I Am Enough acknowledges the complex emotional reality of that demographic. It suggests that before you can successfully date, before you can fairly evaluate someone else across a table, you might need to heal from past trauma. You might need to process a messy divorce or grieve the loss of a spouse.
It's a much more holistic psychological approach to the singles economy.
It is, and it's necessary for a lot of people before they even think about downloading an app or going to a mixer.
So let's pull all of this together. We've mapped the landscape of Tampa 2026.
And it's a wide landscape.
It really is. We have the traditional high-speed, anxiety-inducing DMV model, where you swap demographic data 30 times in a row.
Right.
We have the attempts to fix it, the bingo distractions to relieve awkwardness, the tiny 4-person dinners to combat platonic loneliness, and the intense ideological filtering to guarantee baseline alignment.
Every single one of these models is trying to solve a specific piece of the puzzle.
But they all require a massive compromise on your end.
You either compromise on the depth of the connection, or you compromise on romance, or you compromise on the sheer volume of options.
Exactly. But what if you didn't have to? What if there was a way to take the volume of a traditional event, the psychological safety of a micro event, and the efficiency of an algorithm, and engineer a fundamentally better environment?
This is the pivot.
This is where we examine the centerpiece of this deep dive. We're going to look at a concept called Speed Mingle.
Fascinating model.
Specifically, an event billed as the Beat the Heat Meet and Greet Speed Mingle, taking place at the legendary Coppertail Brewing Copen in Ybor City. Because when you actually break down the mechanics of this specific event, it completely rewrites the rules of in-person connection.
It does. The architecture of Speed Mingle is essentially a direct response to every single psychological failure point we just discussed.
Well, let's break it down.
Let's start with how they tackle the DMV problem, that cognitive overload that leads to repetitive, generic small talk.
Well, the most obvious thing is the event actively bans small talk.
Banned.
Literally outlawed. They utilize interactive mechanics and custom conversation icebreakers. They are explicitly forbidding the generic "what do you do and where are you from" routine.
And the psychology behind this choice is vital. By providing highly specific, slightly unconventional prompts, they remove the burden of conversational navigation from the attendee.
Because it's hard to come up with something clever on the spot.
It's incredibly hard, especially when you're nervous. You don't have to worry about sounding interesting. The prompt does the heavy lifting for you. It forces the brain out of its defensive, automatic routing and requires spontaneous creative thought.
It instantly reveals how someone thinks, right?
Yeah.
How they use humor, what their actual personality is, rather than just reciting their rehearsed elevator pitch for the 10th time.
Exactly.
But as great as that is, banning small talk isn't the real game changer here.
No, it's just the start.
The thing that makes Speed Mingle an entirely different species of event is their concept of the four intents.
This is a brilliant structural innovation. They have recognized that the root cause of dating fatigue, whether online or in person, is almost always misaligned expectations.
Yes. Think about it. When you walk into the Coppertail Brewery for this event, you don't just wander aimlessly around the tap room hoping you bump into someone who wants the same thing you want. You have to actively define your intent for being there up front.
Before you even start.
Right. You choose from 4 distinct lanes. Option 1 is dating. This is standard but highly clarified. It's for romance and real chemistry. It's for people actively looking to move past the screen and find an undeniable physical and emotional spark.
But the next 3 options are what revolutionized the entire room, because they unbundled the singles event from purely romantic pressure.
Which is huge. Option 2 is friendship. They call it social synergy. This is for finding a reliable gym buddy or someone to grab brunch with, or I don't know, someone to debate with late at night.
It addresses the third space deficit we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Option 3 is networking, or professional ascent. Exchanging industry insights, finding mentors, collaborating, but doing it with a craft beer in hand rather than in a sterile, fluorescent-lit corporate conference room.
A much better vibe for networking.
Way better. And option 4 is casual fun, described as spontaneous adult play. High-energy, low-commitment interactions with clearly defined boundaries to ensure mutual respect.
Think about the psychological safety this system creates.
It's a safety net.
It really is. If you go to a standard bar mixer, you might spend 20 minutes talking to someone you're building a great rapport, only to realize they are fresh out of a nasty divorce and just looking for a platonic friend while you are actively looking for a spouse.
Oh, that happens all the time.
And the resulting feeling is exhaustion and resentment for wasted time on both sides. But by forcing everyone to clearly declare their intent upon arrival, Speed Mingle operates like a social GPS.
Yes, a social GPS. Instead of just throwing spaghetti at a wall in a dark room and hoping something sticks, you pick your exact destination before you even put the car in drive.
And the irony is, and this is my favorite part of this model, by offering lanes for friendship and networking, they actually create a much more fertile ground for romance.
Wait, really? Explain that to me. How does lowering the stakes to just friends lead to more romance?
Because of the pressure gradient.
The pressure gradient.
Yeah. When 2 people declare, I am evaluating you for a romantic partnership right now, the defensive walls immediately go up. Every single sentence is scrutinized. Every movement is calculated.
Right, because the stakes feel so high.
Exactly. But if 2 people connect under the intent of friendship, the evaluation pressure drops to near 0. You relax. Your true personality emerges. You laugh louder. You are more forgiving of awkward moments. You are authentic.
You're just yourself.
And very often, genuine romantic chemistry naturally ignites in that low-pressure environment. It's a backdoor to romance that traditional speed dating completely ignores because it's too focused on the end goal.
That makes total sense. It's like how you always find your keys when you stop looking for them.
Exactly.
But Speed Mingle doesn't just rely on the 4 intents to make this work. They actually bring an algorithm into the physical room.
This is where they synthesize the best of the digital world with the reality of the physical world.
It's wild. Beyond picking your core intent, which is basically your deal breaker category, You also select your specific interests from a massive granular list.
What kind of categories are we talking about?
We're talking very specific things. Adventure and outside events, arts and culture, creative outlets, film and television, fun and games, food and drink, health and lifestyle, intellectual stimulation, and sports and activities.
So you feed all this personal data into their system.
Right, and a proprietary algorithm does the heavy lifting in real time. It processes the variables of everyone in the room and actually reveals your compatibility percentage with other attendees.
Which is brilliant. It's taking the computational sorting power of a dating app, but applying it to the physical reality of a room full of actual humans.
But here's the question. How does that actually play out over the course of the evening? How do they protect your time and your confidence without it feeling like that administrative DMV line we talked about earlier? Because it could easily just feel like another rigid schedule.
Right. It comes down to the highly engineered architecture of the timeline itself. A ticket for this event costs between roughly $20 and $40, depending on how early you buy it.
Pretty standard price point.
Very standard. And that buys you a very specific, carefully designed flow.
It starts at 4:30 p.m. with a 30-minute check-in. And according to the sources, this 30 minutes is absolutely crucial.
It's a decompression zone.
Yes. You get your custom name tag, you receive your interactive materials, and you have half an hour to just grab an independently brewed craft beer or a local seltzer to, as their copy says, cool down from the midday heat.
From a behavioral standpoint, this is essential. They do not throw you straight to the wolves.
No whistle blowing right as you walk in the door.
No. They allow your nervous system time to acclimate to the environment, to the noise level, and to the sheer physical presence of the crowd.
Then, at 5:00 p.m., the 2-hour rotation actually begins. But they explicitly state that their framework ensures that you efficiently and seamlessly meet every single person in the room.
Which solves a huge logistical nightmare.
Right, because in an unstructured mixer, dominant personalities tend to command the room and hoard the attention, while introverts get stuck in a corner by the bathrooms, talking to the same one person for an hour.
Exactly. And because of the custom icebreakers and the algorithm backing the conversations, they offer a zero awkwardness guarantee.
Which is a bold claim.
It is bold, but structurally it works. Words flow from the very first second of the interaction. You aren't stumbling to find common ground because the intent and the interests have already been established before you even say hello.
The documentation actually claims this framework actively enhances your communication skills. It forces you to think on your feet, and it delivers an instant boost to your social self-esteem.
Which is the exact opposite of the traditional model. Think about it. You usually leave a standard speed dating event feeling drained, judged, and exhausted.
You leave feeling worse than when you arrived.
Right. But with this structure, you are exercising your social muscles in a safe, guided environment. You practice active listening. You engage in creative dialogue. Even if you don't meet your soulmate that night, you leave the room feeling sharper, more capable, and genuinely energized.
And they give you space to capitalize on that newly found energy. From 7:00 p.m. onward, there is a post-event open mingle.
The structure falls away.
The rotations end, the bells stop, and you can just hang out in the Coppertail tap room, grab another pint, and naturally gravitate toward the people the algorithm highlighted for you, or the people you just felt a natural spark with.
But there is one final piece of the Speed Mingle architecture that we absolutely have to address.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
It's incredibly polarizing, yet sociologically brilliant. It's their stance on privacy and demographic data.
Yes, I really wanted to push back on this when I read it. I'm looking at their attendee privacy and data security policy in the sources.
Read it out for us.
It states that they maintain a strict policy regarding event demographics. They absolutely do not disclose specific registration data, no headcounts, no age ranges, no gender identities, and no racial backgrounds prior to or after the event.
It's a complete blackout.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here for the listener.
Go for it.
Isn't human attraction inherently physical and visual?
In many ways, yes.
So if I'm, let's say, a 28-year-old woman looking for a male partner roughly in my age range, and I show up to an event where they hit all the demographics and the room turns out to be full of 55-year-old men, didn't the organizer just completely waste my time? Why blindfold the attendees like this?
It's a very valid concern, and honestly, it feels entirely counterintuitive to how we have been conditioned to date over the last decade.
Right. We want to know what we're walking into.
But that conditioning is exactly what Speed Mingle is trying to break.
How so?
Go back to our digital marketplace metaphor from the beginning of the deep dive. What is the defining feature of a dating app?
The filter.
It's the filter. We have trained ourselves to filter out complex, beautiful human beings based on completely arbitrary, hyper-specific checkboxes.
It's so true.
We demand an exact height. We narrow age ranges down to a 24-month window. We filter by specific job titles or zip codes or whether they like dogs or cats.
We treat humans like Amazon products. We really do. We try to sort them by prime shipping and 5-star reviews before we even bother to look at them.
Precisely. And what has that gotten us?
A massive epidemic of dating fatigue.
And profound loneliness. By instituting these demographic blinders, Speed Mingle is forcing a behavioral reset on its attendees. They are refusing to let you prejudge the room based on a spreadsheet of expectations.
So they are forcing you to evaluate people based on how they actually show up in the physical world.
Yes. They are forcing you to connect based on energy, physical presence, eye contact, and real-time chemistry.
Which you cannot filter for on an app.
Exactly. You might be shocked to find that the person you have the absolute best conversational chemistry with, the person who shares your deep values and your sense of humor, is someone you would have automatically filtered out on a dating app because they were 2 inches too short, or maybe 3 years older than your arbitrary age limit.
Wow. It dismantles our worst, most superficial judgmental habits.
It does, while simultaneously protecting attendee privacy in an era where data scraping and security are massive concerns. It creates this safe, unbiased environment where connections have to happen organically.
It's almost the perfect counterweight to the hyper-filtered IYKYK Christian event we talked about earlier.
It is the exact opposite approach.
Instead of guaranteeing that everyone is a perfect clone of your pre-existing expectations, Speed Mingle forces you to be open to the unexpected, guided only by the safety net of shared intent and mutual interests.
It's a really sophisticated way to facilitate human meeting.
So let's bring this all home for you, the listener. If you are that single professional sitting on your couch on a Friday night, absolutely exhausted by the swiping, you have a choice to make about how you spend your finite social energy.
Because time is your most non-renewable resource. How you invest it dictates the entire quality of your social life.
Exactly. You do not have to settle for the DMV line of traditional speed dating. You don't have to sit in a loud, sticky bar with a clipboard asking, "What do you do?" 30 times in a row, only to check a web app from your car an hour later to see if you got picked.
No one wants to do that anymore.
And you don't have to hide your desire for romantic connection behind a bingo card at a loud arcade, or hope that a silly lock-and-key gimmick magically results in a profound life partnership.
The singles economy in Tampa and really everywhere else is fragmenting right now because consumers are actively rejecting those broken models.
Speed Mingle represents the evolution of this space. By demanding that you declare your intent, whether that's romance, friendship, networking, or just fun, and by using an algorithm to match your deepest interests, they completely strip away the anxiety of the unknown.
They do the hard work for you.
They ban the small talk, they protect your demographic biases from ruining your own chances, and they give you a structured, zero awkwardness environment to just practice being a confident, engaged human being again.
It treats you like a multidimensional adult rather than just another data point on a swipe screen.
It is, unequivocally, a superior investment of your Friday night. And as you head out into your weekend, whether you are heading down to a brewery in Ybor City or just going to the grocery store, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've seen how Speed Mingle uses a simple algorithm and a clear, upfront declaration of intent to perfectly align social connections and eliminate anxiety. It works beautifully in that controlled environment. So it really makes you wonder how much of our everyday loneliness outside of these events is just a failure to clearly communicate what we actually want to the world around us.
That is a profoundly challenging question.
Maybe it's time we stop waiting for an app to guess what we need and start telling the people in front of us exactly what we are looking to build.
Thank you for listening
and watching on the new Speed Mingle TV network.